Hello, and thank you for tuning in. You are most welcome to join us wherever you are. My name's Stuart Reed, and this is ZeroDaysCyber. We explore different aspects of digital security on each show and examine what it could mean for you. Today's special guest in my virtual studios here is Gary Hibberd, the Professor of Communicating Cyber at Cyberthought Group. Hi there, Gary, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Stuart. How are you doing? You all right?
Very well. Really pleased to have you here. Now, before we get started, I would like to ask you an unrelated icebreaker question, please. And this one has been sent in by Theo. So a big shout out to you. Thank you, Theo. And the question is this. What film do you wish you could watch again for the first time?
Okay. I think that for me would have to be Star Wars: A New Hope. For me, it was one of those pivotal moments in my life. It changed movie history and movie going history, and yeah, it's something that I've been a big Star Wars fan ever since. So if I could watch that for the very first time again and capture the magic that was from that movie, yeah, that would be it, 100%.
Excellent. Well, I guess you're going to be in good company with that choice as well, no doubt. So thank you for that. Now, I know we have you for our marathon edition of ZeroDaysCyber, which is spanning a total of 3 shows, but I'd like us to cover as much as we can in each of those. So let's start by talking about data. And there seems to be a huge number of headlines that seem to be talking about data breaches and personal data being stolen. Do you think we've got to the point now that there's this sense of apathy? It's going to happen anyway, so let's worry about it when it does, rather than people being proactive?
No, I don't think it's apathy. I think there's a different word I would use, is complacency. I think we are complacent, both individually and collectively, to the risks that are out there and the dangers that can befall us if we are breached or if someone does take our data. I think there's also that sense of rather than apathy of, well, it's going to happen, so I'll deal with it when I get to it. It's almost a sense of, it'll never happen to me. I come across that attitude time and time again. Why would anyone target me? I'm just a insert name here. You know, I'm just a sole trader, or I'm just a furniture manufacturer, or I'm just an accountant, or I'm just I don't know, whatever. So I don't think it's apathy, or because apathy almost suggests that people are accepting of it's going to happen, so why should I bother? I think it's more of people don't realize just what the dangers are that are out there, or just simply are blind to the risks, and therefore just think it's not going to happen to me because no one's likely to target me.
Now, on the related subject, of course, data privacy is another hot subject, not least with the introduction of GDPR a few years ago. However, it seems startling that a recent report from the ICO suggests that we as individuals are seemingly sharing too much through digital services. With our increasing reliance on digitization and digital experiences, do you think we are becoming too trusting?
Yes, in a word. Next question. No, I'm joking. I think, again, I'm going to that word, complacency. You know, we are unfortunately, we are time poor. We are always in a rush, and these apps look at most people's devices and they'll have 10, 15, 20 different apps on their devices, and on those apps they will always be the terms and conditions and the terms of use. So within there somewhere it will talk about who they're going to share the data with or what they're going to do with that data. But who has time to read all of those terms and conditions? Who has done that? So again, we're complacent. We trust, you are right, we trust these app developers that they have put the measures in place to protect us. We trust the organizations that they won't misuse our data or abuse it in any way, shape or form. And yeah, we just yeah, we are trusting. We click on accept, and we simply use those apps in a complacent manner, in a passive manner, without really thinking again about what the implications could be.
It's interesting that you say complacency there, Gary, because using that almost as a weapon, do you see a situation where cybercrime starts to evolve and therefore becomes slightly more subtle? We've heard about phishing scams, but is the next step, rather than breaching systems or pretending to be someone else, is there a scenario where cybercriminals simply create an app or digital service that just asks for the data that they want?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not likely to happen. It has happened. One of the very earliest forms of Trojan apps, if you like, was, well, if we go back in history a little, some people may remember the early mobile devices and such. When they had a camera on them, they didn't have a torch. They didn't have a torch app. Or the torch ability. So an app was developed. And we know that one of those apps was actually developed by the Russian mafia to, to install on people's devices, because you didn't have a torch. So, but you could you could turn your camera into a torch. That was a handy feature. So cyber criminals are nothing but inventive, and they will look at ways to exploit our complacency. They will look for ways to exploit our trust. So yeah, absolutely. They're going to create apps that will we will install. We know that there were fake TikTok apps that were doing the rounds just a year or so ago, when, again, because of COVID-19, TikTok sort of exploded onto the scene, if it hadn't already. But for many people, suddenly, maybe for moms and dads, it became more of a thing. But because of that, cyber criminals looked at that and said, well, if people are going to be installing TikTok, maybe we can create something that looks like TikTok but isn't, and get people to install it. Again, it can ask for things such as, access to your microphone, access to your video, and access to your contacts, etc., etc. And you click on accept. So yeah, it's not just going to happen. It has happened many, many times.
Now, on the theme of apps and digital services, I am aware that there are plans by the NHS digital team to create a consolidated database of patient data for third-party research. Now, when talking to the NHS digital recently, they confirmed that anyone can opt out of it and the data will be anonymized. But when processing such sensitive data, is that really good enough in your view? Can data ever truly be anonymized?
No. I mean, the thing for me, the concern here is that we are talking about very sensitive data, and therefore very valuable data. And we're also talking about a fairly archaic network and infrastructure, and an underfunded network and infrastructure, being their primary care system is about care. That's what they're about. Their function. They're not IT professionals. They're not data privacy specialists. They're there to save lives, and they're doing amazing work. My concern is when we start talking about collecting masses of data, storing it in one place, then you're creating an absolute honeypot for cyber criminals. There is no such thing as 100% secure. I don't believe there's anything like 100% anonymized. You may have subsets of anonymized data, but if I can aggregate that data and pull it together, then it gives me enough information to identify an individual, or indeed identify a collective of individuals. So by collecting this piece of data and that piece of data and that piece of data, I'm collecting it from big data. I can now make some assumptions about that demographic or that group of people. So does that anonymize you as an individual? Possibly. Does it anonymize you as a demographic? No. But it has always sent a chill down my spine. For years, this has been talked about when we, about taking large parts of the nation's data and putting it into one place, whether that's for the NHS or for someone else, it's always sent a chill down my spine, because I just think we are just waiting, it's the perfect storm. We're waiting for a disaster to happen, for all the reasons that we know about: people, technology, process, the urgency, the cyber criminals, being inventive, looking for new ways to exploit us. And that's without even thinking about the conspiracy theorist side of it, which is, well, what are they going to do with that data? What's the government going to do with this data? Who are they going to sell that to? Are they going to sell us, are they selling parts of that data to pharmaceutical companies and such? So yeah, it's, when people talk about the bad guys, my question is who are you calling the bad guys?
Thanks, Gary. This is a fascinating subject, and we're coming to the close of this episode, but don't worry, Gary will be joining us again for our next show as we continue to explore the importance of data, and more importantly, how you can take proactive steps to protect your own. Plus, we'll also be discussing the rise in ransomware and why this particular cybercrime seems to be so successful and therefore needs to be taken seriously. So join us again. And in the meantime, if you want to ask Gary any questions, please do so at ZeroDays_cyber or ZeroDaysCyber.net. Thanks for joining us, and see you again soon.